Today I'm going to be taking you through all of the best hip mobilizations that I've ever learned. What's going on, everybody? It's Blake here with Gorilla Zen, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favorite hip mobilizations. So in the video I made last week I talked about ankle mobilizations. If you haven't seen that, check it out over here. This week I figured I'd just kind of continue the trend and talk about hip mobilizations. My objective with this video is threefold. One is to tell you the rationale behind why we're going to be mobilizing the hips. The second thing is going to be telling you how the hips become stiff and immobile. And then the third things are going to be the mobilizations themselves. Okay, so the hips and the muscles that attach onto the hips are what are frequently referred to as your core, okay? Just like the core of an apple, it's not just the front of your body, your abs here, it's the core of your being, the center of your being, okay? In order to be moving optimally, your core of your being needs to be moving optimally too. So if you have stiffness and immobility and rigidity in the hips, then it's really going to affect all of your movement patterns. Okay, so some of the biggest issues that I'm seeing with the general population as well as my athletic clients is one, lack of hip extension, okay, which is your ability to basically extend your hip. This is hip extension, this is hip flexion. People are lacking adequate hip extension. They can't do it without extreme soft tissue restriction here. And the second thing is hip rotation, both external and internal. Now when you're squatting down to pick up a newspaper or something like a loaded barbell during a deadlift, it's crucial that your femurs can externally rotate at the bottom of the squatted position. When your legs are up here, you got to get that external rotation in the femur. If you don't have that, I talked about this in my ankle video, but your body is always seeking homeostasis, and what it's going to do is it's going to create hypermobility in the lumbar spine, your lower back, okay? So if your femurs can't turn out because you're lacking that external rotation, what happens is you flex from the lumbar spine, you get that rounded lower back, and you know that's going to predispose you to disc injuries, herniated discs, bulged discs, and things like that. Now hip extension is equally as important as hip external rotation. You're supposed to be able to extend from the hip during normal gait, walking, running, and sprinting, okay? So if you can't get your leg in deep extension back here during your stride when you're walking or running or sprinting, then that will really also throw off your mechanics, okay? That's going to put a lot of pressure on the lumbar spine as well, and you know that's just, again, setting you up for injury. Essentially, you want your hips to feel good, you want them to be mobile and fluid. Now I feel like I'm beating a dead horse with this one, but the main cause of hip stiffness and rigidity is excessive sitting. Okay, I talk about that all the time. I made a video about how to sit properly over here, but if you're gonna do it, then what I would recommend you do is A, just do your best to reduce the overall amount of time that you're sitting, take frequent breaks, stand up, and B, the second thing that you can do are these hip mobilizations that I'm about to show you. Boom! Alright, so with all of that out of the way, now it's time to show you those hip mobilizations. A quick little note here, you're going to have way more success mobilizing your joints and stretching your soft tissues if you're warm. So always do these following a warm-up or some time spent in a sauna or something like that. Okay, so these first two mobilizations are going to give you the most bang for your buck. The first one's going to work on extension, getting back that extension, and then the second one's going to work on that external rotation that I was just talking about. So this first one I've talked about in many of my videos, but essentially what you're going to do is you're just going to get your leg in extension, okay? It's to work on improving extension, you put your body in extension, okay? It's not rocket science, but basically what you're going to do is you're going to put your leg down like this, okay? Your knee should be directly under your hips here, and your other leg should be out in like a lunge stance, okay? From here, you're really going to squeeze your left butt cheek as tight as you can, and you're going to squeeze your abs as tight as you can too. You're trying to take yourself out of this anterior pelvic tilt. Okay, if your pelvis is a shelf, it's tilted forward right now. You want to squeeze your butt and your abs to bring it up into this position without rocking backwards. Okay, so stay forward, squeeze your core, squeeze your butt really tight, and try to tilt that pelvis up. Okay, you're going to feel a really, really deep stretch in the anterior frontal musculature of your hip here, okay? so that's the first one. That's, you know, like I said, it's going to give you the most bang for your buck in terms of improving hip extension. The second thing we're going to work on is hip external rotation with like a flexion component. Okay, in yoga they call this pigeon pose. But another, you know, technical term for this would be external rotation with flexion of the hip. Okay, so basically the setup for this one, I think it'd be best if I showed you at this angle. This is also sometimes referred to as a 90-90 stretch. At least the setup of it is, because basically you want to put your leg out so that your knee forms a 90-degree angle. Your leg bone forms the 90-degree angle with your other leg bone, and that knee is also bent at 90, okay? So there's 90 degrees here, 90 degrees here, and 90 degrees at this front leg, okay? From here, you're going to get up, and you're going to face the leg that's in front of you, okay? You're going to try to get this leg back. Key here is to keep the hips aligned, okay? You don't want them pointing off in different directions. You want to keep them squared up with each other, okay? And a lot of males, especially a lot of guys that do a lot of squats, you're going to be very, very tight here. But that's the whole point of this stretch. We're working on that external rotation. So you're going to stay upright, really stick your chest up, and then from here, you're going to keep a neutral spine, okay, straight spine, as you hinge forward, okay, towards that foot, okay? And you're going to keep going, keeping this other leg straight, right? You're going to keep going, and you're eventually going to kind of like lay down like this. The key is to try to relax here, okay? Making sure that those hips are even, okay? That's very important. Don't let them kind of distort. Keep them even as much as possible, and really lean forward here, okay? From here, you can actually increase it by turning into the leg that you're stretching, okay? I want you to focus on driving the hip of the leg that's being stretched backwards while you're pulling this other one forward. So you're going like this, okay? Like I said, those two mobilizations are probably going to give you the most bang for your buck. However, if you're still feeling stiff in the hips, then try these. Okay, so this is another flexion mobilization with external rotation that's a little bit more similar to a squat because your foot's actually going to be planted. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to put your foot down like this, you're going to get your other leg back, and you're going to just get in really deep hip flexion here, okay? That thing's going to come up nice and high, okay? From here, you're going to kind of push out on the knee and work on that external rotation down here at the bottom of the squatted position, okay? Kelly Starrett always says to mobilize in the position that you're trying to improve. So if you're trying to improve your squat, then getting into really deep flexion like that, which is going to mimic a squat, is going to be helpful. What you can do to make this even more beneficial is use a band to distract, pull your femur out sideways, okay? So now I'm doing the same stretch, but I have this band really helping me open up that joint capsule, okay? This helps you to kind of transcend just stretching the muscle tissue, and it actually helps you stretch the joint capsule itself. So this is another really simple capsular stretch for the hips. Basically, you're going to get on all fours, just like this, okay? And then you're going to basically let all of your weight go into one leg. Let's say it's that leg. And you're going to try to relax as though your leg bone is going to come up and like get pushed out of your butt. And then you're going to shift your hips to the side, okay? What this does is it stretches the joint capsule of the hip. It's also going to get into your glutes here. From this position, rock forward, same thing. Keep pressure on that left leg, and then even come back, okay? Also, if you want to work on that external rotation here, you can definitely do that by swiveling the knee and then blocking the inside. Can you see what I just did there? I'm blocking my foot from going back that way with my knee. And then the same thing, put pressure down on that knee and then kind of drive over to the side. Okay, and kind of experience what that feels like. Again, just like the other stretch, pretty much with all of these stretches, you can make them more effective if you have a band with you to get that lateral distraction. Okay, so I'm essentially just doing it again now, but now I have this band pulling my femur off laterally, which is going to help get into that joint capsule some more. That hip extension that we started with can also be made more effective with the band, okay? So Basically, to do that, you're gonna band up the leg that you're trying to stretch. Okay, that one is gonna be the one that goes back into extension. You're gonna lean forward, squeeze the glutes, and then let this pull your femur forward, which is really gonna open up that anterior joint capsule and help stretch the anterior frontal musculature of the hip here, okay? Keep this tight here, just like you would without the band. Lastly here, if all else fails, you can always just smash the frontal musculature and the lateral musculature of the hip with a foam roller, okay? So you want to get into that rectus femoris here. You also want to get into the TFL, glute medius, and IT band here. Okay, so I'd spend some time rolling up and down the front of the quad here, maybe getting some active release in with that. Okay, and then get on the side, roll up that IT band, come into the TFL there, and then you could even work the glutes here. Okay, I would recommend crossing this leg over and really just kind of smashing all of those tissues, spending a good amount of time on each one of those muscles. Okay, so staying congruent with the video that I made on how to mobilize joints properly, if you haven't seen that, check it out over here. But it's very important that you now use that new range of motion that you've given yourself. So I'm not going to explain it too much. You can check out that video that I just put over there. But by doing all of these mobilizations and stretches, you've basically given yourself passive range of motion, okay? In order to keep that range of motion and turn it into functional range of motion, you need to use it in a functional situation. You need to get that neuromuscular activation in there. So with this, what I would recommend you do are some deep lunges, really squeezing the glutes, really turning on the core, and just trying to get as much muscular activation down below your trunk as possible, and maybe following that up with some squats. I may make a follow-up video to this in the ankle mobilization video that I made on activation exercises that you can do following mobilizations, but I don't really know if you want to see that. If you do, leave a comment down below requesting that and I'll make a video on it. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and go to my Facebook page and like that. I'll include links to both of those things in the description down below. Other than that, I'll see you next time.